The joy of language learning. I enjoy many aspects of language learning, but I noticed the other day that there are times when, for whatever reason, all of a sudden I am in a really good mood, or some other times I'm not in such a good mood. For example, little things like, I hadn't been swimming here in the ocean because it had been cold, or then it was warm and we had this E. coli alert. Anyway, so today I went in the ocean. And at first, it was low tide, and I have to walk through these barnacles and rocks, and am I going to go? And the water's probably cold. And in the end, I said, no, I'm going to go. So I decided to go in the ocean, and of course, the water was warm. Warm here is going to be like 17 degrees Celsius as opposed to 15. And I had a great swim, and now I feel great. It's not the only time. Like the other day, I was playing golf, and there were these 3 Czechs walking around the golf course, and we spoke a few words of Czech, and I felt good. Apparently, there is this phenomenon called the small win phenomenon, which contributes to our happiness. So apparently there is a book called The Progress Principle by Teresa Amabile and Stephen Kramer. And it describes this phenomenon of how small successes, small elements of progress, however you like to say it, contribute to a sense of happiness, and that this can be used as a management tool to encourage or stimulate employees. So it is a known phenomenon. There is even a small wins effect, which was described by a psychologist, Carl Weick. And I can't help but relating these things always to my language learning activities. But first of all, to describe this principle of small wins and why is it that we're sort of not aware of the things that cause us these moments of happiness. Of course, we can always buy medication to increase our mood, but I don't think we want to do that. We want to rely on natural things that give us moments of happiness. And I believe language learning is one of those, and I'm going to go into in more detail why that's so. But because people are poor judges of things that make them happy, and they tend to focus more on things that make them unhappy. Trivial victories may seem trivial, but in fact they contribute to a positive mood. And apparently, one of the greatest triggers of happiness in humans is that sense that we are progressing, we're achieving something. So any number of things can happen in our lives that give us a sense of a small victory. We overcame a problem, or we are progressing, or we met our goal. They might be very trivial things, but they give us an uptick in energy, positive energy, and so that's a good thing, and it enables us to achieve other things. So if I think in terms of language learning, I also did some research on what gives us happiness. For many people, connecting with something larger than ourselves. For people who are religious, that can be a religious service, connecting with their spiritual beliefs, connecting with that community. In my case, connecting with another culture, another time in history, another language. We feel this when we travel to a country where they have different habits and different customs and so forth. Connecting with something larger than ourselves can give us a sense of happiness, apparently. I remember when I wrote my book, The Linguist on Language, I made reference to Montaigne, who was a 15th century French thinker. But he had his tower that he retreated to, sort of a refuge from the world around him where he could do his thinking. And Lao Tzu, the famous Chinese Taoist philosopher, said, from my window I can connect to the whole world. What he's really doing is connecting to his internal self. And so nowadays with the internet, I can connect with other cultures. I can imagine myself as part of these other cultures, so I'm sort of in my tower, by my window, but connecting to all kinds of things around me. And I find that enriching. I find that gives me a boost of happiness, positive feelings. Also, I think happiness comes from having a sense of purpose and meaning. So when I'm learning a language, I definitely have a sense of purpose and meaning. Not only do I achieve small victories when I all of a sudden understand something, or I've seen my known word total increase. This sometimes gives me a sense of a small victory, but beyond that, it's that sense of enjoying the process. So, and apparently this is also can be a source of happiness if we enjoy the activity that we're in, if it's a little bit difficult, and we are enjoying that learning activity. While on the subject of activity, one advantage of language learning for me has been that I don't mind doing small tasks around the house, because now I find more purpose than just vacuum cleaning or doing the dishes. I have that additional purpose that I'm learning a language, and that gives me a sense of achievement. That makes me happy. So that's another joy of language learning. Take it further. When I went looking at what causes happiness, of course being active, physically active, makes us happier. But now I have again, additional motivation to be physically active, because for many of my, exercise routines, I'm able to listen to the language that I'm learning while I'm exercising. So it, in fact, gives me a sense of achievement, and it also ensures that I'm more active, which is good for my general happiness level. Apparently, we also feel happier when we have a sense of autonomy and control. And I very much feel when I'm learning a language, while my results are not within my control, my activities are within my control. So I can decide what I'm going to listen to, what I'm going to read. If I'm going to have an online lesson with a tutor, these things are in my control. And I know that the more effort I put into some of these activities, the more I'm going to progress in my language learning. So there's a sense of purpose, but also a sense of being in control, a sense of autonomy. And I think that sense of autonomy is very important to success in language learning. So, I don't want to claim credit for some of the other things that make us happy. For example, apparently eating dark chocolate is going to make us feel happier. I can do that without studying language. I find I feel happier if I keep myself hydrated, so drinking water, but that's also not related to language learning. But as I was hoping to point out, at least in my belief system, languages are a tremendous source of joy and happiness. To some extent, it relates to general principles of things that make us happy, but also it's sort of connected to this idea of small wins. Small wins that sometimes we don't realize why they're making us happy, but they make us happy. So I suggest that you take advantage of all the different ways that language learning can give us either small wins or connect us to things that are valuable to us. And that happiness will keep us going. Maintain a positive attitude and spend the time necessary to achieve our goals in language learning. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.